When you really think about it, every great idea, every piece of art, every song that just gets stuck in your head, it's all built on something that came before it. It's basically one giant conversation across time. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how this whole creative engine really works, from some of the most iconic music ever made to the videos you're probably binging right now. Our story starts with this guy, John Lennon, and a super simple melody that, for over 50 years, has become this global anthem, Imagine. I mean, it's way more than just a song, right? It's become this powerful symbol of hope that just connects with people no matter where they're from or how old they are.
And its real power? It's in how incredibly simple it is. The song just asks us to picture a world without all the stuff that divides us. And that message has been a source of comfort and inspiration through, well, decades of chaos and change.
So this brings us to the big question for pretty much any creator out there. How do you take a cultural landmark like Imagine, something everybody knows, and actually build something brand new from its parts? Well, the answer is all in the art of the remix. So let's get into it. Let's break down the actual mechanics of how this all works. In this section, we're going to look at what a remix really is, how they're made, and what you need to take a piece of art apart before you can build it back up into something new and exciting. And what's so wild is that remixing is as old as music itself. I mean, composers have been sampling and borrowing from each other for centuries. But of course, modern technology has totally supercharged this whole process, letting us deconstruct and rebuild stuff in ways people couldn't have even dreamed of back then. Okay, but here's the trick. You can't just take the final song you hear on the radio and remix it. To really get in there and reshape a track, you need to get your hands on its individual building blocks, its source code, you might say. In the music world, these are called stems. So these are the stems, these separate, isolated tracks of a song. For Imagine, you'd have Lennon's voice on one track, the piano on another, the strings on another. This is what gives creators the complete freedom to slice, dice, and totally reassemble the song into something brand new. And this whole idea of taking something apart and putting it back together again, it's not just for music. It's the exact same principle that powers all those amazing video essays you see all over YouTube. Creators take clips from movies, news, whatever, and weave them together to build a completely new story. Honestly, the creative process is almost identical. You start with a big idea, your main point. Then you go out and collect your stems. In this case, all the video clips that are going to help you make that point. You write a script, you record your voice, and then you stitch it all together into something that's way more than just the sum of its parts. Now, this all sounds incredibly creative and fun, but it probably brings up a pretty important question in your mind. Wait a minute, aren't you just stealing someone else's copyrighted work? How is any of this actually legal?
Well, the answer lies in this really powerful legal idea that is, and I'm not exaggerating, the bedrock of modern creativity and free speech. It's called fair use. This is the legal tool that makes so much of the culture we love even possible.
And let's be absolutely crystal clear on this point. Fair use is not some loophole or a favor someone is doing for you. As the Code of Best Practices puts it, it is a fundamental right. It's what ensures that copyright law doesn't just completely shut down free expression. It's literally the engine of cultural progress. You can kind of think of fair use as the social contract of copyright. We give creators ownership of their work for a while, sure, but in return, we all get the right to talk about it, to debate it, and to build on top of it. Without that right, our whole cultural conversation would just grind to a halt. So how do you know if a use is fair? Well, courts look at 4 factors, but it really often boils down to 2 key questions you see here. First, is your work transformative? Meaning, did you add a new message or a new meaning to the original? And second, was the amount you used appropriate? Did you only take what you needed to make your new point? Okay, so what does being transformative actually look like in the real world? To figure that out, we can turn to the Code of Best Practices for Online Video, which is this fantastic guide made by creators for creators to help everyone navigate this stuff. So the guide lays out 6 common situations where you're on really solid ground with fair use. For example, if you're reviewing a movie and you use a quick clip to show what you're critiquing, that's transformative. But it's that 6th principle, recombining elements to create a new work, that really gets to the heart of remix culture. And this is a classic perfect example of that 6th principle in action. I mean, come on, you know this one. You take this totally innocent clip of a prairie dog and you slap some dramatic music over it. On their own, they don't mean much, but when you put them together, you create a brand new meaning. It's funny, it's suspenseful, it's pure internet gold. That, right there, is the power of transformation. Okay, So now you've got the creative tools and you know about the legal right you have to use them. But there are still some really common myths out there that hold creators back. So let's just bust them right now so you can go out and create with confidence.
All right, this is the big one. So many creators think that if they're not making any money from their work, then they're automatically in the clear. But that's a really dangerous oversimplification.
Yeah, that's just not how it works. I mean, not making money can definitely be a factor that helps your case, but the number one most important test is whether you've transformed the original work. In fact, tons of hugely commercial projects, think parody songs, documentary films, have won fair use cases because their new creations were so obviously transformative.
Here's another common fear, that fair use is this legal minefield and you better just leave it to the experts. That kind of intimidation can totally paralyze creativity, but it's just not true.
Look, fair use belongs to you. It's your right as a creator. You don't need to be a lawyer to use it. Just by understanding these core principles of transformation, you can unlock a whole universe of creative possibilities. And that's a power worth embracing.
So, when you look at the big picture, from a simple song that inspired millions to the endless scroll on your favorite app, the creative impulse is exactly the same. It's about taking the culture that we've inherited and making it our own. It's how we add our own voice to this huge, ongoing conversation of humanity.
The building blocks are everywhere you look. The tools are more accessible than they have ever been in history, and the right to create is yours for the taking. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?